afternoon and welcome to WHGE 95.3 FM, your one and only Black-owned, Black-operated news, information, and advocacy station for the entire city of Wilmington, the state of Delaware, and perhaps World Wide Web. If you check us out at WHGE95.3.com. I'm Rachelle Wilson, your host, your journalist, your informationor for today, June 3rd, Saturday, June 3rd. It is now approximately 1:15, and it is a beautiful, beautiful weather today that we are experiencing. So glad that, that you could join in and stay locked in on these dials with my very important spiritual community and state and perhaps national leaders of the spirits and of their particular houses of worship. Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome today to WHGE Dr. Bishop George Gibson of the IMAC, Interdenominational Ministers Action Council. And we also have Minister Robert Muhammad. The Honorable Minister Robert Muhammad is here in the studio, and these gentlemen are going to give us their wisdom. So let's get started right there. I welcome you to the stage. Thank you, to the studio.
Thank you for having us.
Absolutely.
Glad to be here.
So let's start with you, Bishop. Just give us a quick, who are you and why are you you?
My mother and grandmother were devout Christian women. I come from a very God-fearing oriented home. Been in church all my life, but I was introduced to sports at a very young age. And Sonny Hill, he's kind of the icon of the basketball world, came to my house and kind of introduced me and asked my parents, could he have me at the age of 12? And kind of my basketball prowess started off with him. And then I played baseball and football. I went to elementary school at the time of the segregation. So when I left Stanton Elementary School at 16th and Dolphin, they sent us to Frankfurt. So I went to Hardin Junior High, and then I went to Frankfurt High School. And so from 7th grade on, my life was kind of involved in interracial schools. And my basketball powers kind of continued to move forward. And so basketball was a way of life. My parents could not have put me through college. When I graduated from Frankfurt, I had some 256 scholarships, kind of went anywhere I wanted to go in the country. And Earl Pearl Monroe, Ted Blunt, my mentors, my friends, said, no, you're following us. You're going to Winston-Salem State University in North Carolina. So I went out there and played for the infamous late Clarence Big House Gaines. And got drafted by the Sixers in the 4th round in '77. And so, but I was in church all my life, so I've been,
and you're the president of IMAC, and did I get that right?
Yeah.
IMAC. What is IMAC?
Yeah, Interdenominational Ministers Action Council.
The key word is action.
Yeah, and so been involved in ministry now. I've been preaching for 48 years, been pastored for 43. So I've been doing this for a minute. And God has been faithful. And
Give thanks.
And then, maintain my scholastic achievement, because you want to be able to speak to people with a cultural vernacular, but with an understanding that you have done your work to be able to communicate to them effectively and efficiently. So I did a master's in theology, which is in sacred theology, that deals with the liturgies and the rituals. And then I did also a doctorate in ministry, but my studies were in biblical etymology. So I have a pretty good handle on the Hebrew, the Greek, and the Arabic. So it gives me a very, different different interpretation of the word.
Yeah, go ahead.
Muhammad understands that. Yes, it gives you a different view. I'm telling you.
So, and tell us who you are and why are you?
Oh man, my path is a little bit like my brother's here. My father was in the Air Force. So I was a service brat, and we traveled. And so Germany, Italy, but my fondest memory was Japan. And at that particular time, in the 70s, they allowed the mama-sans or mature Asian women, Japanese women, that they allowed to come on base because of the destruction of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. When America dropped the bombs on Japan, there was an agreement in the treaty that the mama-sans could come on base. So my mother and dad hired a Japanese maid, and she taught me Japanese. Me and my two sisters. She cooked. That's why I love rice today. She beat us.
Okay.
And I grew up in the experience of our Asian community, and I learned judo, and I learned baseball with people in Japan. So we come back. My father's last stint was in Homestead Air Force Base, Florida. We come back to the Atlantic City area. I too was a good athlete. I could have played probably Major League Baseball. When I came back to the up north, a lot of the brothers were playing football and basketball, so that disinterested me in baseball, which the gift that came to me like naturally. Made every all-star team I made, I batted cleanup. That's how good I was. And so I played high school ball. I didn't have as many offers as he did, but I wound up at Bowling Green State University and didn't stay there. I came home one summer. Obviously they did not look like outer state boys. Unfortunately, got dissuaded, got a job working in the casino industry in Atlantic City, and I heard a brother talk to me about Elijah Muhammad and Minister Farrakhan, and I never heard those names in my life because of my sheltering. And my mother was a Baptist. She grew up in the Baptist church, and I would come to church, periodically. I had a spiritual home, but it was not forced on me to go to church. I was so inundated with athletics, and that was like a religion to me. But my mother, I knew, was a very spiritual woman, and she ran the house like that.
Yes.
And so you train the child up in the way that it should go.
Yes.
And so I heard the minister, and I said, "Wow, this is unusual." And then I became a follower of Minister Farrakhan, and we had invited Minister Farrakhan to Atlantic City twice, and I was on the pages of the press. Oh my God, it was just an education. But God blessed me to get through that process, learned a lot, and then he sent me here in the year 2003.
And so now you are the leader, the minister of the Nation of Islam here in Wilmington on the 28th Street.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so, but the interesting thing is that you know both Muslim but you were raised up on the Bible.
Yes, ma'am.
So what's the difference between Muslim and Christian?
I'll let my pastors really know, but I'll let my bishop go first.
I think what happens is that there has been so many people that choose to divide us.
Come on.
Rather than letting us be and live together. I made it my business. My favorite orator is Minister Farrakhan. Part of my wanting to go to seminary was I already had fire. I wanted to have some order to my fire. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like I was impressed with him years ago. See, you know, I grew up with the Black Panthers. I'm a Philly.
Yeah.
You know,
Yes,
through the Islam, that whole, and so I boxed at Joe Frazier's gym. Well, you know, really the word my row, all these guys, they were Muslims, but they were friends of mine. They, you know, and I think that it's not necessary for him and I to fight over dogmas.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like we fighting for the same people.
That's right. That's right.
You know.
That's
so
right.
for me, for I really and Mama and I have a wonderful relationship because you know there's a mutual admiration and a mutual respect because I think we talk the same language. Call them Allah or call them Yah.
Yes,
It don't matter to me. You know, I can't even tell you how many times he know it. I call Farrakhan a kind of a Baptist. Yeah.
You said general at the meeting that we were
Farrakhan, I had the privilege of going to his summer home in Phoenix.
Yes.
And having dinner with him.
Yes. Oh, you broke bread. You sat at the table. I think this is important for the listening audience to understand that there is no real difference, and whatever the differences are, they're so small and so minute. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you call God.
Right.
As long as you call him.
That's exactly right. Exactly. You know, sister, Satan is the reason for the division and the setting up into sects and parties. And I am going to call my church, my religion, the Church of God in Christ. This one's a Sunni Muslim. This one's this. And Satan has divided us. And so the scripture says that in the last day God will come, will be one faith, one Lord, and one baptism. And it is when the Messiah comes. In the Holy Quran, it says, and the Messiah would do what? God would teach him the book, the wisdom, the Torah, and the gospel. That is the Quran, the Torah, and the gospel. It is the Bible. See, the people are divided, but when the Messiah comes, he marries the human family into one. And that is Satan's aim and purpose, is to make us diluted, mixed, and tampered with when it comes to who the Messiah is and who the people of the Messiah are, and that people will represent that Messiah to all of humanity. But I say Satan is the one that is the divider of us as a family, human family, and then in particular, since we're talking black, us as a people.
Yeah. And then the Barna society that does all of these data-based things says that the 11 o'clock hour on Sunday morning is the most divided hour.
That's right, Brother Bishop.
The most divided hour of all.
That's
because
right.
we're all trying, we're fighting with doctrines. And for me, if we could get to the cross and the resurrection, I'm good.
Go ahead. That's right.
If we could say that there is a God that gives us a moral compass, I'm good.
That's right. That's right.
You know, like we don't have to fight over these little trivial things, and that's what he was saying. That the work of the enemy is to keep upheaval, and watch this, and keep us divided. Because in the Civil War, you get picked off one at a time.
There you go.
When we unite our hearts and spirit, they can't get between us.
Say that again. Say that again. You're right. I 100% agree. And so, speaking of the people and our people, black, brown, and golden people, there's a lot of stuff going on with us. You know, the Bible, and I know a little bit more about the Bible. I'm still learning a lot about the Quran, but the Bible says each generation will become weaker but wiser. Thoughts on that? And today's children, thoughts.
I'll piggyback on the minister. Yeah.
You said as time goes on, that the people will become wiser but weaker, and that is because in trying to answer this, sister, that there has been an explosion of knowledge that has come on to the planet. You can pick up a cell phone and travel all over the planet, and so knowledge is here. But what has happened is Satan has seduced the people. So we have become what is called weak-blooded and weak-boned. And what that means is, like, it is the blood of the Jesus or the Messiah that we live. It's not talking about we drinking his blood, but live his life. The life that he lived is the life that he desires to put in us. And when we live other than that, we become weak-blooded. Weak-boned is that we do not stand up on the law and the principles of God that gives us a backbone. And so Satan has seduced the people with Hollywood, seduced the people with his politics, seduced the people even in religion, and has made sport and play the religion of America and the world. And that is how I would answer that. We are wiser but weaker because we're being seduced by the enemy.
And what is so pivotal of what he said is when he mentioned entertainment and sports. You hear now that it's more impressive to be dumb
Go ahead.
than it is to be smart. Bullying is still at an all-time high.
Go ahead.
Luke 15, I call it the parable of lostness. There is a lost sheep who wanders off. Then there is a lost coin that falls off a woman's dressing. And then there is this lost son who steps off. So you got wanders off, fall off, step off. Luke 15 never uses the word sin. In the Greek is called hamartia. It is the objectivity of putting an arrow in a bow and hitting the target. So when you hamartia, you miss the target. What is the target? The target is the will, the way, and the word of God. That's the way we're supposed to walk. But the entertainment industry has so wandered off and stepped off because the money in turn becomes their route to evil. So now when you see entertainment, you're seeing all these depictions of demonic imagery.
Go ahead, Bishop.
All of this, I was saying to a group of pastors that I was teaching out of the country, I said, I get concerned when now you have to worship in the dark with light, cameras, and action, and we the people of the light.
Go ahead.
That looks too much like a club to me. That's just my personal stuff.
Go ahead.
That, and I'm not saying those that worship with the lights, comment, action. That I know that's a whole different stage, a whole different thing.
Yes.
But my point is that we have to be careful. Now, the whole premise of the son wandering off is where the generation is. So the prodigal son needs not be the prodigal, it needs to be the father who is the prodigal, because the word prodigal means lavish. So the father was the one that was lavish with his love, extravagant with his love, abundant with his love, not the prodigal son.
Well, but the son, to my understanding, was kind of greedy and asked for his birthright long before it was time. But that's another story.
No, that's not another story. That's the point. The point is he did not want to be in compliance with the authority of the Father's house. He thought
Bring it.
He had a better way. So watch this. So his disrespect to the father was the entitlement of this generation. So the prodigal son is really, if we want to do the pronoun thing for a moment, the prodigal son is not really a he, he's a we.
Yes.
He's a whole generation
Go ahead, Bishop.
that is disruptive in their presentation, disrespectful at the core, and they do not like the idea of authority. What does he do? He steps off because now he embarrasses his father by asking for something he never worked for. Something that his father took in consideration that I'm going to do for my family. I'm going to put something aside for them, so when I'm gone, they'll still be able to live the same way they've been living while I'm here. Well, now, he wants to go to a far country, and spread his wild oats and all that stuff. But the point is, you ain't entitled to that. It ain't yours. You never did nothing for it. I used to have these conversations with my son, like, no, you can't be the man. You gotta earn being the man. I'm the man here.
Yes, sir.
You know what I mean? And so if you're going to walk in a certain way, there's going to have to be respect in this house. There has to be obedience in this house because I'm providing everything that you're enjoying.
So today's children are the prodigal sons, right? Or the we. And they think that they're entitled and they have the better answer than we have. And, maybe in our generation, because we're all just about the same age range, we thought we knew everything and we had all the answers, but yet we knew enough to know we didn't have all the answers. Today's generation is living off of Instagram thoughts. And the entertainment.
But that's what drives them. So they want success easy, or they want a quick fix to whatever they think that their problem is, and the entertainment industry becomes, for some of them, a false hope. We play sports, so in every metropolis, so we're talking about Philly, New York, Jersey, Chicago, DC. We talk about metropolis. In every metropolis, there's 5,000 ball players. There are 3 that are going to become the cream of the crop out of the 5,000. There's only 2 that's going to become the cream de la cream. One going to go and one is not. Now, the cream de la cream, for us that deal in libations, when you fill up the beer mug, you got the cream up top. But when you skim, you have the cream de la cream. You have the essence of what it really is.
Yes.
And so what happens is, in each metropolis, you're gonna get 1 or 2 that might make it to the NBA. Muhammad was talking about make it to the National League, but that lifespan is short.
Yes.
Right. Teach.
I think of Allen Iverson?
Yeah, wonderful.
He shot up to the top, and then all of a sudden, for years we loved him, and then all of a sudden we didn't have him. He's missing, like just gone.
And that's the unfortunate thing when it comes to our athletes and entertainment, sister, that when it is very difficult for a young brother or sister when you come to the ghetto and they offer you an exorbitant amount of money, and we don't have the structure as other peoples do when it comes to managing our talent, because unfortunately our talent is given to someone else to manage, and that's one thing we don't collectively own our own gold. You know what the greatest export resource is in America? It is black talent, but we don't own it. That's our black gold. And so unfortunately, the Allen Iversons and the millionaires and the artists and the entertainers are not taught to live a structured life. And then the next thing you know, we turn that money right back over, and they do it so cleverly. And look at all of the entertainers that have died broke, that we've given soul and spirit to a whole world.
Yeah.
And what do we get in return? Our children and their grandchildren can't eat off of their hard work and labor. That narrative has to stop.
Yeah.
We
have to find a way for us to set up wealth that is generational.
There you go.
Like when you look at LeBron, you're talking about 20 years.
Right.
Of God. Watch this. He kept his nose clean.
There you go.
Brought his partners.
That's right.
Kids he went to school with around him, made them go to school.
There you go.
To in turn now represent him. And like it's,
there you go.
These guys are making money, but what's that? They keep it generational. LeBron builds the school.
There you go.
You know, man. You know, when you talk about all this million, you know, Tyler be talking about the stuff that I be paying attention to, and I'll be listening. You know, I love Omar, Dr. Omar. I love him because he just straight with no chaser. Yeah. And don't care who like it or not like it. But he got the knowledge.
That's right.
My point is that, you know, by now we should have 1 or 2, maybe 3 or 4 banks worldwide.
I want to inject right here. Recently, I was looking at a piece. 1921, we had Greenwood. Okay, we had our own schools and libraries and banks and businessmen and doctors. We had our own communities, self-sustaining and generational wealth. You know, prepping, and then they bombed us and shot us and killed us and murdered us in the street. It appears each time we get to a certain plateau where we can become self-sufficient financially, something goes wrong. Thoughts?
Right.
I want him to go ahead.
I want to say something recent. You know, back in the late 80s, mid to late 80s, Minister Farrakhan had gotten a loan from Gaddafi it was an interest-free loan that for the minister to start our own power products and other services. He put the money in a bank, a black bank. Don't you know the black bank was threatened if they did not take that money out, that they would do all in their power to make sure that that bank was in ruin. One of the things that we have to understand as a people is that we're under an enemy. Why is it that me and Bishop have to be here teaching about black love, envy and jealousy among us as a people? See, it is, and as God said in the scriptures, he had let his vineyard out to a wicked husbandman. And a husbandman is one that takes care of something that is not his. And the minister said that God had allowed this new ruler on our planet to rule, and he would send his servants in from time to time to check on the vineyard. And he said that represents the prophets of God. Some they beat, jailed, and killed. And then so he says, I'm going to send this my anointed, and what will they do when he comes? And then they wanted to kill the heir. What happened? Why am I bringing this up? It is because, sister, see, if the husbandman would have taught us love of self, the self-interest, taught us the necessary things, we wouldn't be here. So we recognize, yes, we got to have self-love first, and then come back later and talk about, oh, Brother Robert, you was wrong. 7 plus 7 is not 14, or whatever. Right. But the least common denominator is that we got to fall in love with self and do for self, because that's what all other people do except us. And it proves that there's an enemy that we have that we got to recognize and then kill that internal enemy that is within self.
How do we love ourselves? Tell the people, because I want to know that. I think I know what loving myself is, but what is it to love yourself?
I think there's a number of things. So Martin Luther King said, in order to love other selves adequately, you have to love your own self sufficiently. I don't think that we love ourselves sufficiently because we have been brainwashed and told lent our ears to the wrong teachers that have taught us how to bring harm and hurt upon ourselves. The easiest thing when you talk about flying on the airplane, they say if you have turbulence and the air come down, they said put the mask on yourself first. That's the self-love, because I can't help you if I'm still hurting. And so I have to make sure that I'm finding a level of self-care. Now, self-preservation is something different, because self-preservation, even though it may be the law of nature, is not the law of God. Self-preservation is the law of nature. The law of God is others. Do unto others as you would have others do unto you. You set that premise. You set that kind of call and response. That he wants you. Matthew 25 talked about. God said to them, well, you didn't do these things to me. And they said, what are you talking about? Well, when I asked you for drink, you brought me the water. When you asked for clothing, you brought me the garments. When I was behind prison bars, you never came to see me. When I was in the cold, you didn't clothe me so I wouldn't be naked. When I didn't have a house, you didn't put me into housing. And so they said, when did we do all this to you, Jesus? And he says, when you have done this to the least of these, you have done it unto me. So the principle is that everybody is important in his sight. I clothe the lily. I feed the sparrow. Every fallen sparrow that falls from the ground, I personally eulogize him. Well, now the song says, then if his eye is on the sparrow, then I know he watches me. Martin of Tours with this great Roman soldier who was leaving Rome and going to the Holy City. And on his way, headed to the Holy City, it started to snow. And by the wayside, he saw a leper shivering and turning blue on the side of the road. He dismounted off his beast, tore his cloak, which was an outer garment, tore his cloak in half, wrapped it around the leper so the leper could be warm, going on his way. Snow got so heavy that Martin had to dismount, pitch camp, laid his head upon a rock after setting a fire so that he could sleep through the night. While he was asleep, a panoramic view opened up, and heaven opened up, and there was people in heaven scurrying around, trying to see why did Jesus have on a tattered and torn garment around his shoulders. And they was coming to him and he says, and Martin, my servant, saw me on the roadside, turning blue, tore his coat in half.
Oh, I get it.
And put it around me.
Jesus was the leper.
And Jesus says to the angels, and when you have done it to the least of these, you have done it unto me. And until we get that,
that's powerful. That's power. I know my mother used to tell me all the time, you never know if you entertain angels unawares. But that story is resonating with me. Oh my God, we thought it was a leper, and it was Jesus in disguise. Don't pass by the people you think are the least of us, because that could be.
That's his standard of judgment.
That's his standard.
That's right. And that powerful. That scripture that Pastor Bishop just mentioned, that is how God is going to judge nations. That's the criterion. That's the criteria right there. But I wanted to add to what our bishop said when you said about the knowledge of self and the love of self. And in the Gospels, there was the disciples that came to Jesus, and they asked Jesus, Master, who did sin? Did their parents do sin? Who did sin? And then Jesus said, none. Neither their parents nor this one or that one, but that the workings of God may be made manifest in him. So Jesus did two things. He took some spittle from his mouth, and then he took the ground, and then he anointed the man's eyes, and then the man came away seeing. And the minister gave us some insight into that. It is the word of God mixed with our nature. The ground represents the nature of our creation. And when and we as the spiritual doctors have been given a scripture, but the scripture is really a prescription that has to be ministered to a dead people by a competent spiritual doctor. And when that is administered, then our eyes become open. And then the people in the community were saying, isn't this the boy what that was born blind? And then they said, oh yeah, that's him. Well, how did he see? He said, go ask him. And they said, I met a man named Jesus, and he opened up my eyes. You see, so it is the work that of a man of God, the Messiah, that God gives him the knowledge of us. We as black people, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad said, when we came over here on a ship named Jesus, it was a man by the name of Sir John Hopkins came to Africa and made a deal with our people, and that we would receive more gold for our labor, more than we were earning in our own country. So a deal was hatched, and we came over here in the year 1555 on a ship named Jesus, and we landed in Jamestown, Virginia. And for 64 years, well, let me finish this. So that song was born when that ship left Jamestown, Virginia, and went back to Africa. Our people ran to the shores and said, you can have this world, but give me back my Jesus, because that was the ship that our people came over here on. And for 64 years, that was the 64 hidden years. That's why in the 40s there was a game show called the $64 question. Then it turned into the $64,000 question, because the minister said it was 64 years that it took the enemy to make a proud black man, African, into nothing. He changed our names, language, culture, and took the knowledge of self away from us and made us other than ourselves and turned us into him. So now we are lost and turned out, and we need a spiritual guide like Bishop here. Do you see the prescription that he gave with that scripture?
That was powerful.
See and what has to happen is that the black leadership has to be let free. And that we can say what we need to say. No, 5 and 2 don't equal 7 in my book. 2 and 5 is equal 7. Let us say it our way.
Right.
You let us put the seasoning on our educational system. Here's a brother, Rick Raw, that's in our city. Brilliant rapper. If he was let free, because the music industry is teaching drill music, pop that pill music, and the gutter gangster rap was obliterated because the enemy seen how that music was bringing our people together. This is what happens. See, like Mao Zedong, and I'll end it on this point. Mao Zedong, when he became the ruler of China, he put his word in the artist. He put his word in the entertainers. And so throughout the country, they were transformed by the message of Mao. See, our message is put in rap. Our messages are put in song and dance. But if the brothers are left free, instead of the conscious hip hop that happened in the late 80s, early 90s, now look at what has happened. You know, Mali music, drill music, and stuff like that. We need to control our own, and if that happens, then our people will know the knowledge of self, the knowledge of God,
and to love yourself,
and to love ourselves.
You're listening to WHGE 95.3 FM. I'm Rachelle Wilson. Make some intelligent noise. here with leadership, spiritual leadership from the state of Delaware and in our communities, Bishop George Gibson and the Honorable Minister Robert Muhammad is with us, just sharing knowledge and information. And I'm not sure where we are on time, but we gonna take our time and we gonna get through this. So I just want to ask like 2 or 3 more questions, if I'm allowed, and then we can kind of go from there. So the first question, and you gentlemen have said so much today that is so empowering and so impactful. I've got to ask you, when we talk about the entertainment and sports and all of this sort of thing, I was watching something. And I don't know if it's true because I've never been into the Hollywood thing of what's going on. They didn't want me, you know. So it's my understanding that these new artists are going to the parties, they're signing contracts, they think they've made it, they think they're going to be the top it something. They wake up the next morning, their pants are around their ankles, or they're not, and then you never hear from them again. So what do you think that has to do with today's pop culture and the black people and our ability to love ourselves? Because we're looking at these entertainers, and I don't want to say or point anyone in particular out, but we've got female rappers who were barely wearing any clothing at all. And then I go to the corner store and I see the 17 or 18-year-old girl who tried to dress like the rap artist, but did not have the right body, did not have the same body as that rap artist, and she looks a whole hot mess, but you better not say that to her. So, what do you think about that statement?
Well, what happens is that the industry is corrupt. Remember now, we lose Michael, we lose Prince, we just lost Tina, and here were people who had their masters.
There you go.
Their money straight, the royalties had to come to them because they were the creators of the content. Mm-hmm. And so what happens is you see all this wickedness and evil because there is the making of the money off the rapper, but also making him stay indebted to you.
Yeah.
So they cut contracts early to them, not knowing when they go out to buy all this stuff, they got to pay that money back.
It's called the 365 contract, and they don't even realize
they don't know. And so what happens?
And if you don't play ball with the big boys, you never make it to a contract anyway. And
that's the problem.
I don't know if this is true, but it's been said that if you are one of the people who do get to make it, they have a video of you in maybe a less than compromising position that you better play ball a certain kind of way. Is there any truth to that, you think?
I wanna dovetail off my brother, and God has blessed me to be with the minister. I've met a lot of people. Athletes, entertainers, you name it, and that is true. The Hollywood and America, unfortunately, is gripped, as the Bible teaches us, by the synagogue of Satan. And whether the people know it or not, it is the Babylonian Talmud that runs America. And if you read the Babylonian Talmud, what is in there is happening in America today. Same sex, pedophilia, all of what you see that is being perpetrated in Hollywood and in the music industry, and you can't touch. Talking about Sodom and Gomorrah, you can't touch. If that is it is sacrilegious. See what happens. The enemy knows when freedom is that you live within the nature of your creation. If a lion steps up out of its nature, it loses its power. See, and that's the aim of the enemy, is to take the human being up out of the nature of their creation. And when that happens, you give up your freedom voluntarily. So you become something other than yourself. And this is what is being put on the American people through Hollywood. And then they pay the politicians an exorbitant amount of money to put in policies and practices and whatnot. This is how the country is being taken right now.
I want to ask a question based on what you just said.
Mm-hmm.
So today is June the 3rd, and the entire month is LGBTQI plus and all these other letters, Pride Month, right? So I believe both of your books teach us that Almighty Divine God, Allah, made the man and the woman and the procreation. So what's going on with all the other letters in the alphabet?
Remember now, whenever you see a new movement that tries to denounce the blueprint, it is already in a place of sin and condemnation. He gives to us a blueprint.
That's right.
And he says, and this is what it is. Now, your culture, you having some kind of woke consciousness has nothing to do. You might as well go back to sleep because you are such an error, because God is not going to redo what he's already done.
Teach, Bishop.
Because nobody gave him the blueprint to do it. He's God. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like he didn't have a celestial conversation and a conference with nobody and say, we're going to do this.
Right.
No. He said, let there be, and things started to happen.
Right.
And so what happened is we try now to bring about, I said to people, I was talking to somebody, and I said, okay, so don't ask me to do all these pronouns, and you messing with the 3 degrees that I stayed in college 15 years for. You're making me think. You want me to act like I'm stupid, like I don't have no brains to understand. This is the design.
Go ahead.
That God has made, and you said the purpose. The purpose was for procreation. I want to throw something on you that might shake you just a little bit. So they've been talking, and I'm going to segue this back to what we said.
Okay.
They've been talking about AI, artificial intelligence.
Oh yeah, right. That's big now. Yeah.
So watch this. So who are they making the robots for?
Go ahead.
That's a great question. Allegedly, the hospitals are doing it to better health care.
They're making the robot for the 2%.
Yeah. Go ahead.
So can't nobody else afford.
That's right.
Right.
Artificial intelligence. Okay. Nobody else can afford that. Okay. So oftentimes history may not repeat itself, but sometimes history rhymes itself. The riddle of the rhyme rhymes itself. So if you want to know what the function of a thing was made to do, you go back to what the theology calls the doctrine of the first mention. So if I want to know what fire was created for, when was the first time fire was mentioned in the Bible?
Okay.
That kind of stuff.
Yes.
Theology of the first mention.
Yes.
So when you talk about this artificial intelligence, I don't want to get too deep. Between Genesis 1 and 2, there's what is called the pre-dramatic catastrophe, or the war in heaven. Okay, and Satan is kicked out of heaven, third and angels come, etc., etc.
Right.
But when you get beyond chapter 3, there is the mingling and the amalgamation of now the terrestrial with the celestial. So the fallen angels in chapter 6
Yes.
are marrying and mingling
Yes. With human women.
human women.
Yes.
Does that sound like a hybrid to you? Okay, let's go keep on going. so watch this. So now the terrestrial and the celestial gives to us what might look like an artificial intelligence because it's a hybrid. So what happens is that sometimes what we saw in the beginning may come full force somewhere else around in the end. Now let me just tap on this other little thing and I'll talk because he mentioned Sodom and Gomorrah. It's his fault. He mentioned this. I say something about it. He so there's 160 women mentioned and named in the Bible.
Really? In a patriarchal society, they gave them a name.
Through the whole Bible. When Jesus is having this discourse about the end time, which is called the eschaton, when he's having this discourse about the end time, Jesus says in the gospel, remember Lot's wife. Now there's 160 women plus that's been mentioned with names.
There you go.
He said, remember Lot's wife.
Go ahead.
She don't even have a name.
Right.
Yeah.
Why did he say remember her? So you remember the angels come to Sodom and Gomorrah, and the men in the city wanted to be with the angels. Lot was going to give 2 of his virgin daughters, and the men said that they didn't want them. They wanted the guests that he had in the house. God struck the men with blindness so that they can get out the house and escape. God makes a way of escape, and he burns down Sodom and Gomorrah, and he tells them to get out there. Lot and his family are leaving. And the word says, remember Lot's wife, she turns around.
That's right.
And the word says she turns to a pillar of salt.
She's supposed to not look back.
Watch this. She wasn't supposed to look back. Watch this. So she becomes a monument rather than a movement. Because the transliteration of her looking back in the Hebrew is she looked back in longing and looked back in desire.
Right. That's right.
So she was more, watch this, attached to her past
Right. There you go.
than she was to the possibilities of a fruitful future. But beyond that, watch this. When she looked back in disobedience to her husband.
Right. Yeah.
Because she was supposed to be a woman of submission, because the exit was not just for the wife, it was for the wife and the family. She was supposed to be the example of obedience to her husband. Now we live in a world right now where no women desire, they want to be boss.
Right.
They don't need a man, don't want a man. They ain't gotta have and all that, all of that is so non-biblical.
Right.
Yeah.
But more than that, it has nothing to do with how you get to the next level. So now, because you want to be the boss, now we have all this pride and all this gay stuff that is streaming at, watch this, and this is an evil.
That's right.
See, the problem is that I ain't got nothing to lose. We ain't got nothing to lose. This is an evil.
Right, that's right.
And somebody has to say this is an evil against the word of God, against the people of God. I talked about this 7 years ago. Watch this. 7 years ago when they did the same-sex marriage piece. I said to my people, this was smoke and mirrors. It is never about no marriage. It was always about the children. The next week, after the gay marriage thing had been passed in legislation, the foster homes and adoption agency was loaded, watch this, with male and female gender-loving couples trying to get the children. Why?
Right.
Because if a woman and a woman has a girl, they will teach that girl no need for a man.
Right.
And if a man and a man has a boy, they would teach that boy there is no need for a girl. What is that called? That is called seductive genocide.
Right. That's right. That's right.
That's how we depopularize.
Right.
See, all this stuff is about the depopulation.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Right.
Because if men and women aren't procreating, then we've got everything else that's going on.
Right.
But if we talk about it, and like you say, you guys don't have anything to lose because you're in the will of God and you're going to be that.
Right.
But they say that we're mean and what's the other word? Non-inclusive.
Non-inclusive.
Right.
And that has nothing to do with it. And notice now, they try to force the hand. Like for me, please leave the children alone.
Right.
The books are now, there are books being taken out of, say, Langston Hughes, and various different writers are being extracted away from the school, but yet the little teeny first and second graders are learning the LGB, all the alphabets.
Right. That
the LGBTQ. It's so many alphabet. I don't know.
Before Muhammad speaks, what's this? What you just said is we're learning alphabets, having transgenders twerk and dance. And Japan, Korea,
that's exactly
Germany,
right, brother.
Russia, they learn in STEM, science, technology, engineering, mathematics. They are so far ahead of us because we're here in the minutia. We're minoring in the things that we need to be majoring in, and majoring in the things that do not matter. But it is the agenda of America. Listen, I'll be in Ghana Accra, Ghana next month, and I travel the world extensively. This stuff is not talked about in other countries.
Right. Don't you know? Thank you, Brother Bishop. Don't you know that, as Bishop said, in schools now, critical race theory is the order of the day, and this is one of the reasons that we need to get our own schools back and under control, because that is being taught of same sex in the schools. Don't you know what Bishop just mentioned? That's in the Babylonian Talmud. Wow. And so see, and that's why the minister is going after the synagogue of Satan. They know right from wrong. That's why in the book of Genesis it was a tree. It knew the knowledge of both good and evil. And the aim of Satan is he got the power of suggesting. So through his media, through Hollywood, through his medium of the getting in touch with the people, that's his aim and purpose. But look here, in Sodom and Gomorrah, that's in Palestine. Not even a blade of grass grows in Sodom and Gomorrah, in those two cities today, because the book says, as it was in the days of Noah and Lot, so shall it be in the days of the coming of the Son of Man. This is what Jesus prophesied. He said, no effeminate will see the kingdom. And so my job, whether the so-called collection plate is full or empty because you want to go down Broad Street, no, it is thus saith the Lord. You see, and that is the way, but the people are being herded into doing things of evil, and they're being herded by Satan, and that's why the people need a good shepherd. Jesus had the differentiate himself as the good shepherd, because the sheep will follow anything and anybody, so they need a good shepherd. And so with Bishop and with the Honorable Minister Farrakhan teaching and training our people and giving them the knowledge of self and the knowledge of others, the last thing I want to say on that, Rome imploded in on itself. Nero, they said Nero was fiddling while Rome was falling.
Yes, sir.
And so some say that Nero was a mythical fella, but even if that were the case, that he was actually, if he were real, see, it is the seduction that Rome was giving its people, and it was like vicious sex. It was, they were corrupted politicians, and it was stadiums filled with people playing and playing games and stuff like that while Rome was imploding. America is a sign of Rome. It's a sign of Babylon. It's a sign of all of the wicked civilizations in the past. Why read them? Why are they in the Bible and the Quran? To give us a picture of what would be in this day and time.
And why would you dare give us February as Black History Month?
The shortest month.
And you give the middle of the summer to gay pride. See, something is wrong with that. See,
because they want to promote that, because that's anything, and I'm with you, Minister, and as well as you, Bishop, Satan will do everything and anything to dishonor God. And if you say anything about it, then all of Satan's minions are going to just fall down on you and say that you're a bad person because you're not following Satan. Instead, you're following God. I don't know where we are on time. I have absolutely no idea.
It's something else.
Okay, so we're still pretty good for about another 2 or 3 minutes. I want to give each of you gentlemen an opportunity to invite folks to come and talk with you. Where are you? Where can we find you? And the last question that I'll ask is about these politicians. The elected public servant is what they're supposed to be. Elected public servants. But they are shaking hands in the shadows, and you and I don't know anything about it. So I want you to address that. But first, I want you to tell the people and me, where can we find you if I want to come and visit your house of worship?
Yes, we are located on 2800 Washington Street, mosque number 35, and here in the great city, Wilmington, Delaware. We meet at 11 a.m. That's tomorrow, and our subject will be that man's wisdom is perfected by and through the female. That is our subject tomorrow. And the other question was
the elected public servants who were having backdoor conversations, but not in our favor.
The scripture says that it will be a new heaven and a new earth, and the former things will pass away. And the minister said the new heaven represents a new spiritual reality, and the earth represents a new political reality. And the politician, it is to take the self-interest of their community that voted them into office. And it is up to the person, the community that elected them, to see to it that the aims and purposes of their community are met. If not, then it is our duty to rid ourselves of those persons. And I think in our community here, Brother Bishop has the power to do it, that we should vet politicians before they run. What do you want to do for the community that voted for you? This is how other civilized and other nationalities do. They vet their politicians to see what they're going to do, and if they don't do it, we're going to remove you. But see,
I would love to see both of you on some sort of a joint committee that actually does that. Every politician who's running for something in the city or the state of Delaware, they have to go through this vetting process by our spiritual leaders. I would love to see that happen.
Well, we actually have started that in Anman. Our first person that we invited was who just left here.
Oh, Velda Jones-Potter.
She's the first person that we vetted, and what I'm going to make sure I do, because I think, again, that there's we better together.
Yes.
I really think that with all my heart. And so I'll set up all the vets, because I invited him the other week.
Yes, sir.
We entertained the mayor.
Yes, sir.
And he just wanted to have a conversation.
That's true.
But since then, there's been some deeper things that wanted to go on, and now I also know that he has intentions again to run again. And so, then Sherry is running for this.
Yes,
and
Sherry Dorsey Walker for Lieutenant Governor, Matt Meyer for the Governor of the state of Delaware. Yes,
and Lieutenant Governor,
and the Lieutenant Governor, Bethany Hall Long.
So we're gonna meet with all of them. We're gonna just go down the list and vet them. Philly is so much different than.
Will you promise me, as you move into, will you promise me that you will give the radio station and Make Some Intelligent Noise updates on that vetting of our elected, of our politicians?
And if you wanted to come and do camera work stuff, I ain't got a problem with that.
Oh, well, thank you. I'm honored.
I think that we have to make sure that people are true to their cause.
Yes, that's right.
That you can't say one thing and then do another.
That's right.
So, when that stuff is on camera, when that stuff is recorded, this, that, and other, we have now the right to go back to that recording and go back to that saying and say, no, you said you was going to do this. And so that's where I am, that I don't, I come from Philly is a different animal, so I don't come from the good old boys club.
Go ahead.
And so I don't function like that.
That's right.
Man. And so I'm not endearing to anybody here.
That's right.
So I want the best for our people.
Go ahead, brother.
Now we're gonna do it.
Would you be concerned about? Okay, I'm going to say it this way. In just saying this, I've had my car destroyed twice. I've received tickets. I've been physically approached by people at night and various different things because I sit at the radio and I voice my voice. Do you fear, or do either of you fear retaliation because you speak what you say what you speak, and you're thinking this way?
The scripture says, though I, what is it, Pat Bishop, though I walk in the
valley of the shadow of death,
I fear
no evil.
Because thou art with me. And if I've been with the minister, this a man, please. Man, shoot.
For me.
And karate. That doesn't hurt.
I think that we have to, I sit in the position I sit as the president because I think God has given my longevity has given me credibility. So I'm able to say some things some other pastors can't say because they don't have that longevity and credibility to say it.
Right.
And so for me, I'm going to say what needs to be said, and I'm not backing up. I'm not going to retreat. I'm not hiding. And I'm from North Philly, so I'm still a gangster.
Isn't it something how God will take the most, let's just say, rambunctious from us and turn us into something for His own will. That's beautiful.
Well, you can come visit us anytime at the Love Nation at 706 Philadelphia Pike. We invite you to come at our 10 o'clock hour to share with us. Our Bible study is on Facebook and also on YouTube, and also our services on Facebook and YouTube. And you come visit us on Tuesday night where I teach the Word from 7:30 to about 8:15. We have prayer prior to, and so you're always open to come and share with us in those spaces. I wanted to share this last piece that I thought was important. I mentioned when Mahana had steered us earlier about the crack cocaine addiction.
Crack, fentanyl, tranquilizer.
So it's all together different now. So in the 80s, the CIA dropped off, that crack in our community after they had deindustrialized the schools. Okay, I don't want y'all to forget that right there. And so then Cain killed Abel with a rock. Okay, so you go back to the first mention.
Yes.
Okay, so Cain killed Abel with a rock. So they made a rock in synthetics to keep on killing the Cains. Okay.
Break that down for someone like me. I'm
Okay.
not as smart as
Okay.
you.
So a rock is the combination of cocaine and some other ingredients, breaking it down to the lowest common denominator,
there you
so
go.
it could be so it could be affordable. Crack was, in the 70s, 80s.
Right.
I'm playing ball, so I'm going to parties with cocaine and sugar bowls.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So I'm hanging out in some places, spaces. There's a bowl you thought with candy in it. It was all kind of pills in there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So now they have to make it affordable. So they break it down to that smallest common denominator. Watch this. So during the crack epidemic, they threw our people in jail.
Yes.
That's exactly right.
Okay, so now watch this though. And now we have the opioid
Right. There you
epidemic right now. So Delaware just got a major opioid fund. Can I just introduce you to what the opioid fund does for those on opioid when they was throwing us in jail?
Go ahead, Bishop.
Because what happens is the demographics gives you money.
Right.
Once it reaches 25% of non-black people in the world, it becomes an issue.
So watch this.
It becomes important.
So watch this. So the demographics are different with the opioid. So now the opioid fund is for prevention, education, trauma, socialization, and housing. So now you can be on opioids and get a house. You ain't listening to what I'm saying.
Go ahead.
What I'm trying to
Oh
say
my,
to you
I'm
is that now,
listening in shock.
So they got trauma in here. Do you know that we live in environmental trauma?
That's right.
Governor John Carney said it years ago, Delaware is a trauma-informed state.
Yeah.
And I'm going to dovetail off of that, in the 80s and 90s, we've got brothers who were posted up selling marijuana. They got jammed up, went to jail.
Yeah.
And then 20 years later, all of a sudden, American government makes it legal.
Yeah.
Everybody can smoke marijuana.
Yeah.
Why? I think I know why. Because now they have a way to tax it so they can make some money off. It wasn't cool when the brothers was on the corner making the dollars. America wanted some of that money too. So they made it legal and now everybody can have it.
But nobody never overdosed on marijuana.
Right.
Never. You're
That's
going to
right.
overdose on some Cheetos.
Yeah.
It's just we're living in a very twisted society.
It is.
But isn't all of that in the books?
Yes, it
Yeah,
is.
definitely.
Yeah.
It definitely is, and I think that's kind of the bottom line. It's time to seek the Lord.
Right.
It's time for us to return back to God. If our ancestors sung the songs of freedom through underground railroads and through tunnels and on ships and in cotton fields, and those were the songs that strengthened them as a core community to even know that even though what we're going through, we just know the trouble ain't gonna last always. That soon I will be done with the trouble. Whatever we sing, we got to get back to songs. I think that because I'm a singer, I get concerned about songs that have no lyrics.
That's right.
There needs to be a story in your song. There needs to be an experience in your song. Something that either happened to you or something that you experienced that you want to share with me so I can tap into it too.
Yeah.
So,
and I think those songs need to be for our young people, because my mother taught me songs and I taught my son songs, but he didn't get a chance to teach his children songs. So that whole generation, they don't even know the songs. They don't even know their history.
I want to end where Pastor Bishop, where he started, and I think he was starting with the prodigal son. And I want to, I guess, because I had that in my note, I want to end on that. The prodigal son, what happened was he said, dang, after he lived that life. He said, I think.
I'll go back, baby.
Oh man,
I'll go back.
I think it was a famine in the land that, that back at Daddy's spot.
We good.
We were good.
Yeah.
And the minister told me, he said, brother, look at the life that we've lived here in America.
Yeah.
But now famine in the land. Not a famine of bread, even though that's coming, but the famine of hearing the word of God. And so that's that song that our people sing in the church. My God, he calls me. He calls me by the thunder. I hear him call within my soul. I ain't got long to stay here. And God is disturbing us in the crack houses today. He's disturbing us in our places of ill repute because he calling on us, and everywhere we turning, God is making it so that he's making us turn to him, whatever name we gonna call him by, and be sincere.
Yes.
And then when he said, when he came back to his father's home, and they were like, put a ring on his finger. This that was lost is now found.
Yes, sir.
And the resources are there for our people all over the world to help us.
Yes.
All we need is unity and the love of self.
Yes. I love you, gentlemen. I honor you. I respect you. I'm so thankful to you. We could go on for another hour because I didn't ask certain questions. I wanted to have more conversation, but we're going to get you back here and we're going to finish this up. So, ladies and gentlemen, just consider this is part one. This is part one, and hold on because part two is certainly coming your way. Again, Bishop Gibson and the Honorable Minister Robert Muhammad here today at WHGE, the only Black-owned, Black-operated news information, advocacy, and education station for the city of Wilmington, the state of Delaware, and we're taking it worldwide. I'm Rachelle Wilson. Make some intelligent noise. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for staying locked in. And until we meet again, may you be well. Take care of yourself. Be good to yourselves. But please, be good to other people. Because karma, that's real. Karma's real. Take care and God bless.